Hey there, Jim Weber at the Fox 13 Weather Center. Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. We're in the middle of tracking Hurricane Idalia, so I kind of wanted to bring you back into the heart of the Weather Center so we can kind of track this and give you a quick update. Here's the 5 o'clock advisory, 26.1. 84.8. Top winds are at 100 miles an hour. The Hurricane Center, they're flying their recons continuously in this storm. And I can tell you, as they're flying now, they are finding that pressure is lower. As of 5 o'clock, you can see that pressure was at 972 millibars, but we are seeing that already lower than that. We're seeing all the signs that this continues to strengthen. So as we go through the evening, we are quite likely going to continue to see this strengthening, quite possibly rapid intensification. That is what we are calling for with this. You see, by early tomorrow, this is a Category 3 hurricane. Winds of 115 miles an hour. Makes landfall, looks like somewhere up into the Big Bend area, but still, our effects over us, they are not going to go away. We are really talking about that storm surge along the West Coast. Now, the good news, along Central Florida, we're not talking about hurricane force winds. I think we keep all those off the coastline, but we're talking about that storm surge along the coastline. That is still a very big and a very real threat. And then you see what this track does. It works its way over the Carolinas, eventually out into the Atlantic, and some of the long-range models want to circle this back around. Now that's long range, so we're not going to worry about that at this point, but just kind of one of those things you keep in the back of your mind. Now, as far as the watches and warnings, we've got the hurricane warning. That's from Longboat Key up to Indian Pass, so no big surprises there. You look at the computer models, and we've had that very good agreement. Now, the one thing that we have seen with this over the past 24 hours and throughout the morning hours is you're seeing a little bit more of a shift on towards the west. So that's good news for us, but obviously good news for us is always bad news for somebody else. So up towards Tallahassee, getting a little bit closer. I think they still say stay on that western side or that left-hand side of the storm, the weaker side, but still that brings some stronger winds to places like Tallahassee as we go into tomorrow. And then there you see it kind of working its way out into the Atlantic. So as far as that wind field, as we go through the evening, you're starting to see some of those tropical storm force winds along the coastline. Where you see that red, that is the hurricane force wind. So that's staying well offshore. Now, right now, hurricane force winds, they only extend out about 25 miles from the center. So one of the things we've noticed with this over the past couple of hours is maybe a little bit of a jog to the east. Maybe it's not heading directly north right now, but we have enough of a buffer that this is still far enough off our coast that we're not concerned about those hurricane force winds moving over us. We stay in those tropical storm force winds, but that surge along the coastline is still an issue. And then as we go into tomorrow morning, there you see it making landfall up into the Big Bend. Probability of tropical storm force winds, we are definitely looking at that right along the coastline through Pinellas County, coastal Pasco, Hernando, and up into really most of Citrus County. You're looking at pretty much a definite that you're seeing those tropical storm force winds. Anywhere you see that darker purple shade, it's just over a 90% probability that you see those tropical storm force winds. But as far as hurricane force winds, you see all that stays offshore. So that is good news for us. Our biggest issue is that storm surge along the coastline. That's what you see up across the Big Bend, 10 to 15 feet with that storm surge throughout Tampa Bay, Pinellas County. You're really looking more along that 4 to 7 feet. As far as tides, through the overnight hours, I think we're obviously going to have a high tide between about 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, but then as we go into tomorrow afternoon, that could also be another issue because we will have that wind coming up from the southwest. And as we get into, say, right around 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, there's that possibility we could have more surge issues along the coastline. Rainfall amounts, most areas between about 3 to 8 inches of rain, and we will obviously have some pockets in there as you see some of these bands moving through that could be up to about 10 inches of rain. But with the storm moving pretty quickly, it will really limit how much rain that we see with this. But this is something we will continue to watch throughout the overnight hours and into tomorrow as it makes landfall, and we'll keep you updated right here on myfoxhurricane.com.